I think many people think it's the best hardware wallet for EVM chains. But what it looks like is a point of sale terminal. And it has cards, and the smart cards are your seed phrase, right? So basically each smart card is an independent seed phrase wallet. So you can have one device and you put the card in, you can have many wallets. So you can like segment your funds, you can take things cold, you can like create many backups, you can do a bunch of fun stuff. So what I learned from that is I learned how credit cards work. I learned how the interchange networks work down to the what they call APDU levels of the smart cards. So we actually wrote applets, then we wrote the software to consume the applets and then sent it over the wire. So what did this teach me? This taught me that the current card-based systems are almost identical to crypto transactions. So much so that if you can get one provider to agree to give you access to their network, i.e. allow you to be an issuer, without making any firmware changes at the point of sales or the ERM software, you could add QUAI as an asset that's accepted at those terminals. So you could use the physical infrastructure of credit card payments to do crypto transactions without making any changes to that physical infrastructure. The reason for that is because cards are basically signing a transaction, which is a signature against a public account that's transferring an amount. So all you have to do is actually set up an issuer interface that instead of going to a private database that is a bank's ledger, is querying the blockchain if this is a valid transaction and then returning a result. So you could actually do the whole process just by creating that issuer interface. And the only thing you need to do is get permission to do it from one of the providers. So we've actually talked to Visa and MasterCard, and they don't want to do it. And the reason they don't want to do it is because in the card processing game, there are vertically integrated providers and there's horizontally integrated providers. Visa and MasterCard are horizontally integrated, so they only do the interchange process and they make their money on the interchange. So when you do a card-based transaction, you have a merchant bank and you have an issuer bank. So a merchant has to have a merchant account at a merchant bank. Then you have the interchange that then goes to the issuer bank, where the issuer of the card has accounts that they use to issue cards to holders. You have like this like pyramid of 5 things. So this is the horizontally integrated model. So when you look at Visa and MasterCard, their customers aren't the merchants or the cardholders. Their customers are the merchant bank and the issuer bank, right? So if you say, hey, I want to use blockchain for settlements, they told us point blank, we wouldn't do that because you are taking business from our customers, i.e. the banks. That's who they consider their customers to be, are the banks. Now, there's another type of card processor that's vertically integrated, like Amex or Discover. And there's actually many more card processors in the world that are vertically integrated. It's not just like America, but in America, those are the two. So what they do is Amex is the merchant and it's the issuer and it's the interchange. It's all 3, right? So their customers now are the merchants and the cardholders. So in that process, if you were to say, take out the private ledger and introduce a public ledger, they would still have a business model. They could still like construct systems where they create credit. They could still construct systems where they do chargebacks on fraud, et cetera, if they wanted to, using a public ledger. So that is like very apropos to a vertically integrated interchange company. And we just have to convince one of them out of the global list, because if you get, say, EuroPay, they're still compatible in the United States and South America and China because they all have these reciprocal agreements. So you actually have like, I think it's like 14 different people that you could convince. We just have to convince one of them to give us access to their interchange network. And then we could globally allow the acceptance of QUAI via the physical infrastructure of card payments. And that is our goal. Now, when we actually talk about physical cards, that's like a shitty way to distribute these systems because it's like 20 to 26 bucks to be able to provision, print, and ship a card. Alternatively, you can do this thing with an eSIM and you can deploy the applet to somebody's smartphone. And if you do a deployment that way, OTA to a smartphone, it's only about 30 cents to acquire a customer. It's like a much better customer acquisition cost if you go directly to tap to pay rather than doing cards. So like our goal would be to convince one of these interchanges to give us access to the FI so that we can create an issuer interface between their network and the blockchain. And then we would have an app like Blip, and we would add the ability to have tap to pay eSIM. And then everybody would be able to use Blip on any physical infrastructure that accepts like any one of the major cards.